Starting from the last video on modules, I started talking about some advanced topics in abstract algebra as we begin to bring this to a close gradually. And this last three videos started from that one. This is the second one, and then after this, I have one more, and then I can call it a wrap as far as abstract algebra is concerned. So these are some advanced topics in abstract algebra that we've been looking at. So we saw modules in the last case, which we saw to be a generalization of the idea of vector spaces as we see in linear algebra mostly. So let's talk about structure theorem. So for structure theorems, we'll be talking about finitely generated modules, structure theorem over a PID, that's principal ideal domain. And then I think we talked about PID and all these other concepts, when I talked about domain at some point. Then classification of finite Abelian groups. So let's go ahead and start again and bring ourselves up to speed with the idea of modules as seen in the previous video. So again, we are trying to look at to remind ourselves of modules, the definition and the context. So if we say that R is a commutative ring with identity, so an R module M is an abelian group M with addition together with scalar multiplication R cross M map to M, satisfying that R into M plus N is Rm plus Rn, Rs multiplied by M is Rm plus Rm, except meaning that addition, multiplication distributes over addition like that. Then RSM, so we also have associativity and the identity of one M is M. So the modules generalize vector spaces by allowing scalars from a ring instead of a field. So that's how the generalization is done because scalars come from a ring instead of a field because our fields are special types of rings. So we're looking at the whole ring in this case. So we talk about finitely generated modules. So an R module M is finitely generated if there exists M1, M2 up to Mn belonging to the M such that M is equal to Rm1 plus Rm2 plus Rmn. All right. So, and then we write that M is generated by from M1 to Mn like that. So this is a finitely generated modules like that. Okay, so examples of finite generation. Imagine these possibilities now that you have Z as a Z module, which we confirmed in the last video. So you see, Z is simply generated by one, right? Just multiply. So just keep going. One, two, three, four. Go to the right, go to the left, and you're good. So go to the right, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, all the way down. Then go to the left, one, 0, minus 1, minus 2, all the way down. So in that case, Z is finitely generated. And then we have Zn. So for Zn, right, it is generated by the identity elements from E1 to En, like that. Then, of course, that's Z raised power n, by the way. So Q as Z module now. So Q is not finitely generated. So any finite set of rationals has a common denominator and cannot generate all of Q. So in that case, Q doesn't work in that for finite generation. So next, talk about free modules. So an R module is free if it has a basis. So this whole idea of basis comes from the idea of vector space. And thankfully, I'm going to, after now, I think I should go for a playlist on linear algebra, which was supposed to be a prerequisite for abstract algebra, but it's okay. So an R module M is free if it has a basis. That is, M is isomorphic to R power Rn for some n. So over a field, every module is free. Over a general ring, this is not true, right? So over a general ring, this is not true, but over a field, every module is free. So when we talk about free versus non-free examples, you see that Zn is a free Z module like we saw before. Okay, Zn is a free Z module. I don't think we've seen the idea of free module up till now. Then Z slash NZ is not free as a Z module since NX is not equal to 0. So were it to be that, in this case now, yeah, so for in this case, nx is not equal to 0 for all x. I mean, nx is always 0, right? For all x. So in this case, now we say that z slash nz is not free because nx is always 0. And talk in this case, you may not come across the idea of 0. So principal ideal domains, PID. So a principal ideal domain is an integral domain in which every ideal is generated by a single element. So it's more like in in the context of rings, right? Principal ideal domains or ideal domains in general seem to be like cyclic groups, the idea of cyclic groups, because every cyclic group is generated by just a single element. So a principal ideal domain is an integral domain in which every ideal is generated by a single element. So example, you have Z. So Z, we've seen that Z can be generated by just one, and you have K of X where K is a field, can be generated like that. Then non-example, Z of X, that is polynomial fields in the Z domain. So they are not PIDs. Okay. Then we have structure theorem, which is the main reason why this video has been made. So structure theorem, the statement structure theorem for finitely generated modules over a PID. So let R be a PID, that's a principal in integral ideal domain, and let M be a finitely generated R module, right? So then we can say that M is isomorphic to R, uh, circle. Okay, I want to see what this is called now. I remember I checked it. Okay, yeah, O plus. That's O plus, right? That's O plus. O plus. So that's O plus slash D1, O plus R slash D2, O plus all the way to DT. So from D1 to DT. So when I will say that R is greater than or equal to 0, this small r here is greater than or equal to 0, then D1 divides D2, D2 divides D3 all the way to DT. And then we can now say that D sub I is not equal to 0 and 1. So this decomposition is unique up to isomorphism. So it is unique up to isomorphism. So that this is the statement of for finitely generated modules over a PID. So maybe I want to do this. I want to make this a bit clearer. How do we read this? Okay. How how do we read this in simple terms? In simple terms. Okay. So, oh, okay. Okay, maybe I should just type it directly. Yeah. Okay. So the expression this represent the structure theorem for finitely generated modules over a principal ideal domain. This fundamental theorem in abstract algebra states that any finitely generated module M over a principal ideal domain R can be decomposed into a direct sum. So that's why we have all this O plus. A direct sum of a free module and a torsion module, which itself can be further broken down into cyclic torsion modules. So these components of the decomposition are this. So you have R raised by R, this first R raised by R. This is the free part of the module where R is a non-negative integer called the rank of the module. So the rank is uniquely determined by the module M. So small r is the rank. Then R slash di. These are the cyclic torsion modules, where each di is a non-zero, non-unit ideal of R. So the elements D1 up to DT are called invariant factors, and they satisfy the divisibility condition that D1 divides D2, D2 divides D3, all the way to D2 minus 1 dividing DT. These ideals and thus the factors DI are also uniquely determined by M. So the theorem is a powerful classification to which with key applications in mathematics. So finitely generated Abelian groups, where the PIDR is the ring of the integer Z, the theorem classifies all finitely generated Abelian groups. Then for canonical forms in linear algebra, where R is a polynomial ring K of X over a field K, the theorem can be used to derive the Jordan canonical form and the rational canonical form of a linear transformation. Interestingly, in this video, we'll continue, we're still going to see the Jordan canonical form as we get towards the end. Okay. So interpretation of the structure theorem, like we've seen. So we see that R raised by R is the free part of M, where R is the small r is the rank. Then R slash di are the torsion components, And then just like we saw, the integers di are called invariant factors. So we have a free part and the torsion component. So let's quickly look at the torsion submodule. So, or maybe I should just, okay, yeah, let me just accommodate everything at once. So for torsion submodule, we have this. So an element M belonging to M is a torsion element if there exists R not equal to 0, right, in R such that Rm is equal to 0. So in that case, we say that this element M is said to be a torsion element if there exists an R not equal to 0 in R such that Rm is 0. So the set of all torsion elements forms a submodule called the torsion submodule, denoted T of M, right? Then we have free plus torsion decomposition now. So every finitely generated module over a PID, over a principal ideal domain, decomposes as this. So we have M being isomorphic to the free part and the torsion module part. So you have RR O plus T of M, where RR is free and T of M consists entirely of torsion elements. So these torsion elements are what all this part now is what we can see as the torsion element. All the R slash D1, O plus R slash D2, all the way down to R slash DT. So example over Z in this case. So imagine that M is ZO plus Z slash 4Z plus Z slash 12Z. So the free rank is R equals 1 because this is Z right here. So it's just Z raised by 1. So the rank is 1. Then the torsion part, you have Z slash 4 and Z slash 12. These are the torsion parts. Then since 4, you can see 4 divides 12. So since 4 divides 12, this is already in invariant factor form. So we can have that kind of decomposition. Okay, so then we have two forms of the structure theorem. So we have the invariant factor decomposition and the primary decomposition. Let me see if I can show everything at once. Yeah, I think it can work. All right. So two forms of the structure theorem. So the structure theorem can be written in two equivalent ways, the invariant factor decomposition and the primary decomposition. So for the invariant factor form, so you see that M is isomorphic to the free part, that's R raised by R, O plus R slash D1 all the way to RT, where D1 divides D2 and all the way down to DT. Therefore, so this is the invariant form now. But then there's the primary decomposition where you have M being isomorphic to the free part RR, O plus uh O plus P, this representation where P runs over elements of R like this. Okay, so these are the two forms, the invariant factor decomposition and the primary decomposition. So then we have example. So imagine this slash 180 Z. So let M be Z slash 180 Z. So if you factor 180, you have 2 raised power 2, 3 raised power 2, and 5. So the primary decomposition now of Z over 180, Z slash 180 will be isomorphic to Z4, this 2 raised power 2, Z4, then O plus Z9, O plus Z5, as we have that. So this is the primary decomposition, if you follow that primary decomposition thing. Okay, so for invariant, at the end of the day, you want to have something dividing the order. So therefore, the invariant factor form of example, if you recombine the factors, so you have Z slash 180 Z being isomorphic to Z 136 because this is 4 times 9, 36, then O plus Z5. So this is the invariant factor decomposition. So this is the primary decomposition where you take it down to the basest primes, but here you lump it all together for the ones that have powers. So then we have finite abelian groups as Z modules. Finite abelian groups as Z modules. So a finite abelian group is exactly a finitely generated torsion Z module. Thus, the classification of finite abelian groups is a special case of the structure theorem with R equals Z and R equals 0. Then we talk about classification of finite abelian groups, talking about invariant factors. So okay, I think I need to show okay, let's go step by step. So every finite abelian group G is isomorphic to G is isomorphic to G, that's Z slash N1 O plus Z slash N2 all the way to Z slash NK, where N1 divides N2 and up to NK. So, and we have classification of classification of finite abelian groups, talking about primary decomposition, which is equivalently G being isomorphic to this big O plus P GP, where GP is the subgroup of elements whose order is of power P. So we have this example. So talking about groups of order 360 now, imagine let the order of G be 360. So, and if you reduce this to the lowest common form, so 360, of course, in case that's looking strange, of course, it's not something we've done previously. So how we got that is you have 360. So you want to express it as a product of the prime factors. So of course you don't do 1 because 1 will always go, but you go for 2 because 2 can divide 360. I can see already. So that's 180. 2 divides 180, 90. 2 divides 90, that's 45. Then after now, 2 cannot divide perfectly anymore. So we go for 3. 3 can divide 45 15 times. Then 3 can divide 15 5 times. And then 5 then divides itself once. So that at the end of the day, we can then say that 360. So we can say that 360 is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. So that would be 2 raised to power 3 times 3 raised to power 2 times 5 raised to power 1, or just 5, like that. So that is 360. So doing that now helps us here. So for possible decompositions, we can go for 2 raised to power 3. We have Z8, comma Z4, O plus Z2, or we just say Z2 raised power 3 directly. And then for Z3 raised power 2, we can say Z9, right? And that is Z3 O plus Z3 straight up. And then here we have 5. That is just simply Z5. So we can see that the total non-isomorphic groups we can form will be 3 times 2 times 1. That is 1, 2, 3 here. This 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, and 6. So these are the total non-isomorphic groups we can form. So again, 2 raised to power 3. So you have Z slash 8, which can be Z slash 4, O plus Z slash 2, or Z slash 2 raised to power 3 straight up. Or you have, so it's like this is Z slash 2 raised to power 3. Okay, yeah, like this. So 3 raised to power 2, you have Z slash 9, Z slash 3, O plus Z3, and all that. So you have 6 possible non-isomorphic groups you can form for groups of order 360. And we have an isomorphic example. Imagine the isomorphic example here. Are the groups Z slash 4, O plus Z slash 6, and Z slash 2, O plus Z slash 12 isomorphic? The question is yes, because both reduce to the same invariant factor decomposition. So they both reduce to 2. So if you move to this, so they both reduce to Z12 and Z2 O plus Z6, right? They both reduce to that idea, like that. So it's more like shifting, taking 2 out of here, multiplying it by this 6 here, and you have 12, something like that. In summary, right, for structure theorems, we then can say the following things: that finitely generated modules over a principal in ideal domain admit a canonical decomposition. Then every such module splits into a free part and a torsion part. The finite abelian groups are classified uniquely by invariant factors or prime powers, like we have seen now. Then this theory generalizes diagonalization in linear algebra, and you're going to see linear algebra in the next playlist. I'm going to do the next playlist on linear algebra, which should have preceded this, by the way, but it's okay. So primary practice problems. So I mean, some practice problems. You want to check this out and see how to handle some of these things to see if you really have an understanding of all the things I've been talking about. So determine whether the following Z modules are finitely generated. Justify your answer. Of course, we know Z is finitely generated because it is generated by 1. Z3, I think Z3 is finally generated from by E1 to E3 or something like that, like we saw before. So try your hands on this and see how it all works out. Let me know how helpful this is for you. And if there's something else you'd like me to try out, feel very free to let me know. If you have subscribed already, I must thank you very much for doing that. And if you haven't, I should ask you what exactly you're waiting for, because there's a lot to learn on this channel, starting from math to data analysis to data science to machine learning to talking about scholarships and all of that. Okay, so go ahead, feel free, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can always get alerted each time a new video is released. Having done that, you can also become a member of this channel by clicking on join. Just go to my channel page and click on join, and you can become a member of the channel. That gives you some special privileges, like so you may have some videos made for just members, or some videos members see them first before other people see them, or we can have one-on-one consultation depending on your level of membership and all that. Okay, let's see how all this play out. Ultimately, don't forget to comment, like, and share so that more people can have access to the great content I have going on here. Till I come your way again, keep doing algebra right, keep doing maths right. Bye.